Welcome to the Directors UK podcast. We're the professional association for UK film and TV directors. No matter the format, no matter the genre, our featured directors share their approach to the craft. We hope you enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to another Directors UK in Conversation. My name is Felix. If you haven't had a chance to meet me yet, I'm the events manager at Directors UK. Tonight we have for you in conversation Steve McQueen and Jessica Hobbs discussing Steve's new film, Blitz.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to thank you for making an extraordinary film before we say anything else, because this is the second time I've seen it. I was incredibly moved by it and have thought about it a lot since. So one of the things I wanted to maybe start with is there's such an extraordinary amount of research in the film. There's a lot of real people's stories. And I found that after I watched it the first time, I went home and started looking people up because I really wanted to know who some of these characters were. Can you just talk about how you approached such a kind of there's such a vastness of the stories in there, and yet it's told in such intimate detail. How did you decide as a writer what elements to keep?
Well, I think the first thing which is very important in this picture is the heartbeat. I mean, it's a love story.
Yeah.
That's the most important part of the picture as far as anything else is concerned. You know, Rita and George. And I found this picture, most of you know the story about me doing research for Small Axe and coming across this photograph of this boy, this black child boy who was going to be evacuated. It was a suitcase and, you know, the oversized overcoat and the cap. And as soon as I saw that image, it was one of those things where I just thought it was so sweet, so innocent, but in an environment which was completely the other, opposite to that. And I somehow wanted to protect him, but also I wanted to know his story. So that was the soul of the picture. And of course, when, you know, who's his family? How did they come to be? Where did he live? And so you sort of circle out from that point, and therefore I need to know the landscape. And any person has to learn at least. I just want to know the landscape of that time, and digging into it. Sort of, you know, and the situation also it sort of started way even further back then when I was a war artist. I was in Iraq in 2003. And being, you know, in Iraq, it was very strange because, you know, usually most of us here have never been in a war zone, but you know, we get the war through, you know, through the media, for TV, for whatever, how we get our news. And it's very abstract, you know, it's very sort of other. It's a thing that's just flashing in the corner of a room, possibly. And the fact that when I was in Iraq and being, doing tours of duty with these guys and having a sense of camaraderie, having a sense of actually nationalism, because guys from Newcastle and Edinburgh and, you know, Swansea and Southampton and Sheffield and elsewhere, Manchester, I really, for the first time, had a sense of, you know, nationalism and a sense of camaraderie, but it was kind of perverse because it was in the environment of war.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, it stuck in my head then. And then when I saw that photograph, that I knew immediately when I saw that photograph, a kid, that was my in.
How many years from that? I mean, I know 2003, when you first started thinking about the Blitz, when did you see the photograph, and then how many years was the writing?
I think that was 2019, possibly 2019. Yeah, but these things, again, I plant a lot of seeds, and some sort of wither and die, and other ones sort of, you know, keep on asking questions, and, you know, they come to fruition. You know, but you know, again, it's important because things just take a long time to germinate, or they fail, and that's fine if they fail. Yeah. But you have to sort of work on them in your mind, and what sticks sort of is what sort of I'm interested in, basically. Sticks around, rather.
In terms of the writing, then, did it go through quite a long process with you? Were you on your own a lot of the time doing it? Because you obviously, you did you work sometimes with historians and other researchers? Did you get people to help, or? Well,
again, listen, for me, history is secondary to story. Yeah. The groundwork is very important. I mean, you know, people ask me, did I watch a lot of films of the Second World War? Absolutely not, because most of those films are not particularly good, because they're not accurate. Again, it's like I said, it's like cowboys and Indians, and you find that the Native Americans aren't the bad guys. You know, this is what London looked like. Yeah. I mean, this is what London looked like. There was Britain had colonies. There were sort of merchant sailors. There were people living. There was a huge Chinese population right where we are now. There were actually 3 bombs that landed just here. Again next to the Kurz and on the corner there. There were 3 black clubs off 7 Dials near the Donmar Theatre. London was, as Joshua Levine, one of my historians who wrote the book, The Secret History of the Blitz, was cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of again you have to then you find out what is left in and what's taken out. I mean, it's kind of deliberate, obviously, what has been sort of done as far as a historical accuracy or what London looked like. But what was so interesting for me was that it was just so rich. It was so dynamic. It was like, wow, this world, and look what happens here, and that was exciting. And the women being in the front line,
Yep.
Like I said, the women were the emotional backbone of the country, physically and emotionally, looking after elderly, parents, taking their kids off to be evacuated, working in an ammunition factory, working in sort of, aircraft hangars, supporting the front. I mean, they are half of the war effort,
buying their own drinks.
Buying their own drinks, holding the country together.
Yeah.
And they're totally, and the women are usually sort of, forgive me for being bold, mattresses or girlfriends or hysterical women or wives or handing someone a cup of tea. I mean,
particularly in war movies. So I'd just like to thank you for that.
Well, it's the truth.
Really
I mean,
great.
that's what they were doing. They were making bombs in factories and other stuff. I mean, that's how it is. But again, the funny thing is, these are brand new images for the big screen. I mean, it's just bizarre.
Well, it's like the character of Ife, who is amazing, but he's based on someone real, right?
Yes, he's based on a guy called Ite Epion, who was he was a law student here. He was a law student here, but when the war broke out, he became an air warden. Yeah.
And that story of him in the shelter is a real story. Is that right?
Speech is accurate. Yeah, that speech. What happened when people trying to divide the shelter, and he sort of he gave that speech. Yeah.
It's just that marriage of story and emotion, but you've got these real elements in it, and I think it's such a act of craft to marry those things together in such a way that you're swept up in the story, and yet there are so many things that you can rely on when you go back and have a look at it as a viewer and go, oh God, that person, Mickey Davies,
Mickey Davies. How do we not know who Mickey Davies is? I mean, he's one of the architects of the NHS. This small guy, this small person. Again, it's not about ticking boxes. It's all about story. But in George's journey, he comes across these things, and the reader comes across things. Again, it's about the story, the research, and the environment. Well, the environment was the environment. It just hasn't been shown before, so that was easy. Women, again, these are things which, as my son said, I wasn't flexing. It was just how it was, and it was exciting. It's like sort of discovering a whole world, and that world actually was here in London, in UK. Yeah.
You do a beautiful thing at the beginning. I don't know if anyone else had this experience, but you literally feel through the use of sound, which is spectacular. But the sound that you have of the kind of dropping into a place, and then that it's almost like this out of control creature, that hose, and the chaos of those guys trying to manage it. Did you always have that as the opening image? Because it's such a powerful way to enter this chaotic.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's somehow the fact that one is not just fighting the enemy, but fighting ourselves, but also, just through the research, because research gives you so much of the inadequate sort of machinery that these firemen had. I mean, the hoses were made out of canvas. They were leaking. The brass nozzles. They couldn't control the water pressure. Yeah. I mean, again, it's like fighting a fire-breathing dragon with a water pistol. It was kind of futile, but how brave they were. Again, it's these are all what happens in war. It's not just the enemy shooting at you and shooting at them. It's all the things in between. It's like Tommy, being killed by unfortunately by a train coming in the opposite direction. He doesn't hear it. He's a contract on the other train. These are part of the casualties of war.
Yeah.
It's who we are. Again and again, it's just for me. Again, it was just sort of a wonderful world to sort of bring to screen. I mean, that's what I love doing. But the heart of it and the soul of it was Rita and George. If you don't have that love, there's everything else is again. If that was the thing that gave me the most anxiety, because if we didn't have that connection between those two, there's no movie.
It's so beautiful. Just that opening scene with them on the bed, playing, doing the drumming, and the connection between Saoirse and Elliot is just. How did you find him?
Well, Elliot, we did it. Nina Gold and I. Well, Nina put this thing out, and then there was a lot of casting. When they got these people to look for people, sort of an open casting thing, and then I saw this tape of this guy. There's several tapes I saw, and I saw this tape of this guy, and I was like, he looked very pissed off. Looked very pissed off with the big eyes, and I was like, again, when someone's face has a magnetism, and you're looking at that face, and you want to know, you think you know, or you want to know, or he moves away, you don't know, or you want to know. He is a silent movie kind of quality with his with his big eyes, and he doesn't blink. He has he did competitions. The kid doesn't. The focus is amazing.
Yeah, he was extraordinary.
He was real. Yeah, and he brought Evan. He's a kid, so everyone's. For him, it's not pretend, it's real. So everyone's game has to rise. Yeah,
because of it. Did you have anyone who helped you work with him, or was it just...
Yes, forgive me, Simon, and forgive me, I've just forgot Simon's second name. He was his acting coach, who was wonderful, forgive me. But Simon was extraordinary. Again, you've got this person who's keeping him focused, because, again, kids' minds could go all over the gaff. Yeah. So when it's his time to come on, he's in tune and he's ready to go. Yeah,
that's so great. And also for you as a director, you've got, so many balls in there. Those exterior sequences.
No, it's a talent. It's definitely talent. Simon was exceptional.
Yeah, and to find that right person that you also trust.
Oh, absolutely.
That you feel you can do it. And Saoirse and he seem to have a very special bond.
Well, that was the other person who was keeping him in check as well, was Saoirse, because, again, she started acting when she was 9 years old.
Yeah.
Elliot basically, he was 8 years old when he was working. He'd be 9 years old when he came on set, and it was just incredible, that relationship, because it was real. What you saw there was them having this amazing connection, and also with Paul Weller.
Oh my God!
When Paul came in, again, Paul, no pun intended, the jam. He could jam with them because he liked to play. Again, Paul liked to play, and it was just really kind of a beautiful thing, because there was a 66-year-old man, a 29-year-old woman, and a 9-year-old boy, but they loved being with each other. So it was very easy for me just to sort of, action and see this joy, and they loved the sort of camaraderie.
Did you let them improvise any of that stuff?
Because it's all real. It's all fun. It's all there was no sort of authority in that. It was just a case of a real mutual appreciation, and giving people space and reciprocating that kind of that sort of love or that affection. It was beautiful. So that was the thing that gave me the anxiety or the nervousness, not the big set scenes, all that kind of stuff. I'll do that. If you just do it again.
Yeah.
This stuff, if it's not there, is as one time there's this Russian. The only one good thing about NYU, there's this Russian director teacher goes, if it's not in movie, not in movie, not in movie, not in movie.
Yeah. And absolutely right. And you know when you're on set, don't you? You can feel it. You can feel it if it's happening in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it's action. Just keep it in focus.
Yeah. But in terms of the relationship between, say, Paul and Saoirse and the kid, you can feel that when it's real, and it's like, as you say, you sit back and you let them go, and you get these magical moments.
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important piece in the picture was the eyelash and Make-A-Wish. That was all improvised.
So beautiful.
That was all improvised. I told them I'd written something. I hadn't written anything. But I knew that get them on the bed, mucking about and playing and see what will happen. And magic, I just had, I knew something would happen. That was it.
Yeah, it was
and
so
I think
great.
that was something that Saoirse's mother did to her. So it was just gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah. And the drumming also, I have to commend you. The use of music in the piece is extraordinary. And the marriage between... the score that Hans Zimmer has done, which is incredibly uplifting and moving and majestic, but also the use of contemporary music of the time. And did I read that right? Is one of those songs written by you or co-written by you? Is The Winter Coat?
Yeah, Nicholas Brutel did the music, the on-screen music, and Hans did the score. This is the dynamic duo that I used for 12 Years a Slave, so I thought if it's not broken, don't fix it, bring them back. And Winter's Coat,
it's quite good.
Yeah, quite little. Winter's Coat was, it was again. My father died 18 years ago, and I had his winter coat, and I always thought, it'd be interesting to make to write a song about that. So the whole idea of, again, it's everyone possibly has a keepsake or someone. The whole idea of putting that coat on, the whole idea of that almost like that embrace, that sort of hug, that sort of absence but presence around your body. I think everyone could relate to that, and I thought the women in the factory would have that again, it's a father or brother or uncle or whoever in their family, they will have that sort of sensitivity because it's about feel and smell and texture.
Completely.
Yeah,
also, the way she sang that was, was she nervous? Because that place is full of people. She's singing
I remember,
virtually unaccompanied.
I mean, again, with Saoirse, casting Saoirse was kind of interesting because, I never thought of Saoirse at that first, but then she has a very good agent because he got the script. And so, oh, hello.
It's not a knocking at the door.
Yeah, so then she was talking to her, and she was in Australia doing a movie at the time. And I said, okay, interesting. And we talked, and she talks a lot about her mother, She had a very close relationship with her mother. It was just, her and her mother. So she understood Elliot and George in a real kind of fundamental way. And, lots of things on that screen is about her and her mother in a way, very beautiful. So you get access that, and obviously George responding to that. And Elliot rather responding to it was pretty amazing. But she told me, I said, well, can you sing? And she goes, I can hold the tune. I'm like, what does that mean? Yikes. And then I didn't know. And then she was in Australia. Then we got a singing coach. And I never forget that call from the singing coach. She said, not only can she sing, but it's only got to get better. And I was like, oh, thank goodness for that. That was amazing. So that's beautiful. Yeah.
Do you know what's beautiful though? It doesn't feel like a highly trained voice. So you really believe the emotion and the truthfulness of this being an ordinary woman
heartfelt.
Getting up. It's so heartfelt, and the reaction of her friends. There's so much detail in the layers of the casting and the kind of all the way back. Every time you're looking at a sea of faces, you can look at any of them and they're all completely there in that moment. When you've got big crowds of people like that, how do you find a way of working with them or getting them to a point where they all understand the scenario that they're in?
Well, I got to say that was that was actually the most humblest times, beautiful times on set I've ever had, because normally, on a set, it's all blokes, isn't it? It's mostly blokes. And this is the first time ever in my life this was dominated by women, and the vibe was totally different. They saw themselves. Yeah. They recognized it, and they recognized it was about them. They were in a factory making bombs. This is never, in history of fucking cinema, have you ever seen that? No. The fact that they were being recognized for what they did, and therefore there was a kind of love, and therefore their attention to Saoirse was there, and they felt wonderful, and it was beautiful. It was just like, it's like doing Lovers Rock, black people in the room, black cameraman, it's like black DP. There's this it's reciprocated.
Yeah.
And in that scene, it really was. It was really cool.
You can feel it in the room. I think it's an amazing sequence, but also you've got the brass band there at the beginning, and they're playing live.
Yeah, they're playing live. That's live. Yep. Yeah, they're brilliant.
There's a lot of music. I mean, I, for one, would like to go to the club that Rita and Marcus are dancing in. I don't know if anyone else wants to.
It's
but that is
it's gone now.
Brilliant, that club. Yeah. But that is such a kind of, even though, yes, I'm sure it's highly choreographed, the way you're using the camera and the cinematography, you just feel thrown into the energy of the place.
Well, it's kind of choreographed to a certain point, and then you have to let it loose, because again, you can't redo that. I mean, certain things you just have to feel it. And music was such an important thing in the war, so important. It was the thing that lulled people. It was the thing that sort of, there was the whole idea of the gel, the kind of camaraderie. It was the sort of, again, Gerald, the Paul Weller character is based on Paul McCartney's father. This upright piano in the corner that you could just go to, and again, don't forget, it was beautiful when, obviously when, George is called a horrible name, and it could be used as solace. It could be used as, lifting the spirit. It's magic. Music is magic, and I think people used it in a way to sort of do so many wonderful things. Because in fact, what happens in war, what happens in those deepest, darkest moments, is often is the most highest of high joyous moments. It's kind of weird, but it's like, Prince party like it's 1999. That's what happens. That is just what happens. We dig deep and we find something, because hey, what we got to lose.
The movie walks an amazing line with that, though. It does it kind of has these extremes of pressure on the kind of human psyche, and then it has these moments of just ordinary blissful joy. Just the image of those kids sitting on top of that train is such a kind of free image. It's so profoundly fun to watch prior to one of them losing his life. And it's just the way you've juxtaposed all the way through the film these kind of bursts of joy and togetherness and community and hope amongst what they're going through. And to me, I think that says more about maybe that Blitz spirit that people talk about. You can hear in my accent, I'm not from here. But the kind of, keep your chin up and keeping on wasn't really what you're reflecting in this. You're talking about community and togetherness and seeing people.
Well, I think, the Blitz spirit, what was that? Shut up and don't talk about it, really.
Yeah.
And it comes out in different ways in traumatic situations. And it feeds its way down into generations. Even now, we're feeling the repercussions of the Blitz. Again, I think whatever that is, that was never my intention. It was just a case of human condition and what we do. We're bizarre. There's Rita sort of making bombs in the factory, then she's hiding from bombs falling from the sky in the evening. It's kind of it's nuts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, this movie could be a loop. You could just end pull it back, Rita, and then go back to the fire hoses and so forth and whatnot. It could be a continuous loop. But I think the whole idea of this movie, in some ways, is making a picture which is sort of, again, there's a kind of classical sort of storytelling, and it's like a fairy tale, but actually everything in it being completely new. Every image is, you've never seen these images before. No one's seen Mickey Davis before.
Yeah.
No one's seen F.A. before. No one's seen women in a bombing factory before. I mean, every single image. I mean, it's a part of us, but hasn't been sort of put to the surface because other people were looking in other directions. Where right here we were having our own battle, just sort of keeping ourselves together. Again, like you said, with these women in the factory, after the war ended, they voted Churchill out because they didn't want to go. People found themselves in the Blitz.
Yeah,
it's really found themselves because they were doing things which they would never have done because of the war. And everyone here in this room has some kind of connection to the Blitz. I mean, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the Blitz.
Yeah,
fact.
It's so interesting that you talk about it being in a loop, because the first time I saw it, I found it was almost elliptical, and it's that thing that you do very early on. You do the opening with the fire hoses, and then you drop us into this kind of black and white, grainy. It's like just dropping into a memory kind of thing. Did you always have that as the design of the structure at the beginning? Because I loved that being dropped into the film.
I talk about the abstraction of war. It's very abstract for us. It's not, something which is sort of, actually, it's actually graphic, isn't it? It's either on this computer screen, a television, a newspaper, or it's very graphic war for us. It's kind of weird, but it's graphic. And I love the idea. What I was looking at the First World War. I like the idea of animation, people trying to break it down, because a lot of people, animators, artists, looking to abstraction or avant-garde film. And that segment with the sort of breaking up of images and going to days is for a clip from I use a clip from a Man Ray picture from 1927. Yeah, that was taken from Man Ray, because I was doing a lot of research into what the fuck were people thinking, trying to make sense out of nonsense.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is it's just a small clip that because it's a film that and what it is, the black and white stuff, that's salt crystals. It's actually X-ray salt crystals. So because you have a surface of obviously we're going over the surface of the water. We didn't know it. You don't know that at first. We find it at the end of the picture. Yeah. But that is sort of black and white X-ray of salt crystals. The black and white, then we break up and we get to the flowers. Yeah. And the flowers for me was kind of a symbol of nostalgia of how things were, how things could be. How things were and how things could be. That was a kind of hopeful image in a way, land.
Almost what George is always trying to get back
wanting,
to too.
Again, the wish. Wanting, again, yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. Can I ask a bit more about the script that you had, and then the free-form way, or the openness that you have to the way you're working on set and set things? Did you change the structure a lot through the process of the filmmaking and then the editing from what you originally had written?
Yes and no. Again, I think scripts are just there as a guide.
Yeah,
they're not film. I'm not an animator. You know what I mean? I'm not a cartoonist. So scripts are just there. Say, oh, you like that? Okay, let's get on. Now we get on with the film. Now, you know what I mean? Let's find it. Again, and I feel that is always important. And if I love making films when we're filming rather than in the editing room. I don't do this editing business. Oh, make it in the editing room. No. I don't shoot. Again, these people, I grew up with Super 8 camera. So the whole idea of shooting 30 hours of footage to cut down to 30 minutes is like, that's not craft. That's not accurate. That's like, it's just laziness. So, because when I grew up with Super 8 camera, and a cartridge was like $3.50 or whatever, or £5 or whatever. It was about $3.50, $3.75. And I remember mucking them out. I went, oh my God, that's 25 pence, Jesus. So it trained me to sort of be more accurate in what I was doing. Because, you know, again, okay, to get closer to what I wanted. It's like a golfer. You can't have 35 strokes to get a ball. Net. You got to. So again and again, we're British, so therefore, you know, we know how to stretch a pound because we don't have the money to fuck about. So it's a very important thing to sort of again craft. What am I after? What do I want? How is it? So, yeah, the whole idea of coverage, I didn't know what that was. So yeah.
But you had worked with a cinematographer before, had you?
No, Yorick Lasso. I hadn't worked with Yorick Lasso before. I knew Yorick's work because of Oliver Yassias.
Yeah.
And I was following Yorick's work, and I just one day I'd like to work with him. There's a fluidity to him which I liked very much. And he was great again, just to collaborate. I mean, I like my frames, but his lighting is fantastic. But I like my frames.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
There's a beautiful combination, though, of kind of classical framing and then this incredibly kind of visceral camera movement that's taking us through things. And there's a really beautiful attention to detail of what George's point of view is. And so you'll drop into that.
Exactly. Because like going back to your school playground right now, you think, how small it is. But when you're a kid, everything looks massive. Yeah. And that's the whole idea of his viewpoint in the war. Everything looks 3 times as big. And again, that's my opportunity of making a British epic because not only because of the Blitz and it's sort of, you know, its devastation, again, you know, to make a British epic, usually it's passed to India or out of Africa, you know what I mean? So ex-colonial place. The fact you could do one because of the landscape was so sort of, you know, interesting and again, the characters and also the whole idea of war. And I was interested in showing the enemy. The enemy was these explosions with these bombs. It's like all of it was a fire-breathing dragon.
Yeah.
And we had to deal with it. The battle was on the ground, fighting among ourselves, and of course, fighting the enemy, but mainly among ourselves. Sometimes these things bring out the worst and the best of us, and that's what I wanted to investigate through this child, because the child was giving us this vision of giving us some kind of, how can I say, a viewpoint on what we're doing, a clarity, to refocus our gaze through his gaze.
Yeah, that was amazing. The sequence we got, and I, you know, the casting is superb, but Kathy Burke and Stephen Graham are just amazing and terrifying. She's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, one look is enough. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great, but that whole. Café de Paris, that whole sequence, and then them coming in afterwards, and the kind of ricochet between life and everybody kind of celebrating, and then
limbo, life and death. Yeah, I mean, again, you know, I've heard some people say it's about it's like Oliver Twist or Dickensian. I mean, George Hemingway is not Oliver Twist. He's a black boy.
Yeah.
How you see Oliver Twist is very different how you see George Hemingway. How George sees things is very different how then Oliver Twist sees things. So kind of, it's like saying that, you know, I'm Prince Harry. It's kind of, you know, it's not that, you know, again, it's a different situation because the child and how the viewer sees him and how he experiences things is totally different. How me and you experience things, is totally different. You know, how I am seen in London. Before I even open my mouth, people think of me. So it's like it's you have to be, you know, kind of bright or sharp to understand the nuances of what this is about. When someone calls a child of that age a black bastard, they ain't saying that to fucking Oliver Twist.
Yeah,
you got me. So it's heavy. The weight, you know. As a black person, you become political very early on in your life because you're asking who, how, why, and what. So when you get to a situation with these criminals as such, and it's criminality and necessity, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's poverty, criminality, and necessity. That's what that is. Again, and you're getting into a world where, you know, again, it's obviously, you know, the Steve Graham character has scars.
Yeah.
And it's a brother and sister thing. And of course, where, you know, obviously something happened to him, maybe, I don't know, his father was, you know, does it hurt? Obviously, there was some kind of thing going on there. So it's twisted, and the fact that they are playing with the dead. And again, well, with Café de Paris was interesting because that music, Oh Johnny, that song Oh Johnny, which is someone forgive me, it's all about life. That Oh Johnny, it's a woman sort of, you know, having an orgasm and talking about Oh Johnny, how you? It's about having an orgasm, about life. That song was actually played at the time the bomb dropped in the Café de Paris. That song was being played.
Wow. Okay.
And then the guy, the conductor was obviously the black guy there. He was a guy called Snake Hip Johnson, And Snake Johnson was he modeled. He lived in Harlem. He was from Guyana in South America. He modeled himself after Duke Ellington, and he was openly gay guy. He was living with this well-to-do white guy, openly gay black guy. So again, that society, that perversity of that world, because people living on rations, and then you see this world open up of, people living, the life of Riley, dressed to the nines, sex was sort of open and flowing, people didn't give a shit if you're gay or straight at that time. Literally, you see Quentin Crisp will magnify that by 100. People didn't care because it was about life and death and anything go. It literally was Cole Porter, anything goes. And that was the anticipation. That was the Cafe de Paris was that just there, Cafe de Paris, just there. I mean, again, you do wonder, don't you? You do wonder. Again, then you understand. There's nothing in this film which is conventional. There's nothing in this film which is ordinary. It's extraordinary just because it is. Again, it is us who we are in this room. It's the mixture of all of us here in this room. And our backgrounds. But unfortunately, often you just look at things. You think you have no sort of given an opportunity to be seen. I remember very direct. Quickly, there was when we did New York Film Festival. There was this Chinese guy came up to me, and he's like older guy, and come up to me. So, I remember in Piccadilly, he hid in the underground. His father owned a Chinese restaurant, and he goes, "Thank you for allowing me to see myself." I said, okay, sure. Yeah.
I mean, I noticed that. And in fact, just going back to you talking about the gays, when Marcus and Rita come out of the club and the guys bump into him and, deliberately try and start the fight and he gets taken away, you cut to, there's a Chinese worker standing there and there's other people standing, and they know not to do anything. They know. She's the only person making any noise and everyone else is like, this is... And there's a really beautiful moment with the women in the...
It's like white people, when you're with a white person, someone just saying race happening, oh my God, this is like, come on, mate.
Yeah.
Wake up. It's like people finding out about fucking Donald Trump. Come on, mate.
Yeah.
Come on, mate. I mean, we live this our life. We know these shits. And people, again, it's like double consciousness with black people, any other people other than white people. Something because what white people think, what we think. There's things going on you have no fucking idea about. But that's just how it is. You see, you have an idea, but you have no fucking idea. And if you want to know, then you got to do the work. It's that simple, But often, if you're in an advantage situation, you don't necessarily have to, do you? Or you don't think you have to, because you rather have the advantage than the disadvantage, or know the disadvantages even. Sometimes it's active ignorance. Yeah, that's how active ignorance.
There's the mixed race girl in the factory who's not wanting to stand up, and why she's and then at the end she's like, "Don't put your head above the parapet."
She might not stand because she knows you'll lose a job, and she would be the first one on the chopping block. But notice also, the only people who see George in his journey are other people of color, or the police, or people of authority. Anyway.
Yeah, no. Just in terms of. Can we talk a little bit about the extraordinary art department and design and costume? The costume, what I really noticed is that everybody's clothes look like they belong on them. Mm-hmm. They've got dressed in lots of detail, as you do when you grab bits and pieces, you do stuff looking around the bedroom, the set dressing. Everything feels like you've just landed in it. You've taken us to land in that place.
Well, Jacqueline did the costume, Jacqueline Duran and Naomi who did the makeup. They're extraordinary people. Again, wardrobe and makeup are the people who know most directors, a lot of directors here know the most about what's happening on a movie set, because they're working all the bloody time. We come out, if we're lucky to make a bloody movie once in every blue fucking moon, but they're the guys who know, you lean on them, and their research is second to none. It's just as good as, again, and then they're extraordinary. And again, for me, it was about, Rita in particular was interesting because I wanted her to keep her sexuality and her humanity. She keeps humanity through her sexuality. So she has this beautiful tweed sort of hip tweed jacket with a pencil skirt, because it was at that time a lot of people just may do, but she didn't want to make do. She had a life. She wasn't just a mother. She was a person before George, and she wanted to keep her sort of her power. And again, and I was just with Naomi about, apparently, Hitler hated red lipstick, so a lot of women just put red lipstick on all the time. He hated makeup, so that was their being defiant.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
And again, you see with Adam Stockout as the art director was extraordinary. To work with Adam, it was incredible, of course, because again, because I knew I didn't want a bloody green screen or anything like that. I just thought try to get as many locations as we can and build as much as we can. Of course, what the engineering feat with the subway station was actually amazing.
That is one of the most extraordinary sequences. So you built that in a studio.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And then flooded it.
Yes, we did. Yeah, the engineering feat was fantastic, and
Elliot's doing that himself, isn't he?
Elliot does all his own stunts in the movie, apart from one, the wide angle of him jumping off the train. All other jumps he did. That's one stunt he wanted to do it. There's only one stunt he doesn't.
Glad he didn't do that one.
He did everything else. Everything. Amazing.
Yeah, he's incredible. That
building
kid.
the Cafe de Paris, but also building something and destroying it is both an art.
Yeah, quite tough to do actually. And was it Hull that you went to for a lot of it? Because some of those exteriors of the streets are amazing, and I can't imagine where you would have got that in London. But
exactly, the place that time forgot. London, Britain. Unfortunately, we have a lot of these places, and unfortunately for us in the film, we could go there and shoot and help the economy there. Hull was one of them. We went to Liverpool. Again, interestingly enough, it was Adam Somner, my first AD, was an extraordinary man, and Adam. They came across this arcade. I thought, what's this arcade? Steve, we came off this, and we thought this could be interesting. I thought, as soon as I saw the arcade, I thought, so I wrote that because they found that.
That's the Empire Arcade.
Empire Arcade. When they found it, it was kind of like a decay. It was like you see it now. It's like they because obviously things have been disheveled. As soon as I showed that, okay. So these are the things that artists bring to you. So I totally wrote that, and we were shooting it before. They just wrote this new scene of Empire Arcade.
So you were doing that all the way through the filmmaking. If you would discover stuff, you would recreate or
it's developing.
Adjust.
It's sort of it's organic. It sort of it sort of comes together. It sort of again it tells you what it wants. It tells you what it wants, and again that's what it's about. And again, George having clippets of life. Not you don't stay with one thing because he's moving through. He's trying to get home, but that device of just seeing London through his eyes and having bits and pieces of it that's what it's about.
It's also quite fable-like because he's a kid. Kids remember things in these kind of grabs of memory, don't they?
Well, exactly. I mean, we all remember it because it's like a Brothers Grimm story, a fairy tale. It's very dark. It's very dark, but these things stay around because they're classic. But we're doing things which very classical, but at the same time extremely I'm going to say revolutionary. I'll just say because it's never been done before. I mean, and that's nothing to do with me flexing. It's just to do with the facts.
Yeah.
It's a kind of and it's not my job. I'm just interested in making movies, and it's like sci-fi. There it is. Oh wow, this has never been seen. Oh wow, but it's part of us. It's our London. That's what London looked like. Like I said, I've said before. I mean, that's what London looked like. That's what Joshua Levine, I said, my historical advisor on this picture said. Central London was multicultural. It was. His words were, it was cosmopolitan.
Yeah, which is beautifully reflected. It's also, you're very agile and open in your filmmaking process, and you must rely on your creative collaborators, your heads of department, those people to be very agile and open too. And I've read stuff from them, and you can read some stuff from the people that have worked with Steve, but a lot of them talk about the level of respect you have for what they're bringing and their ideas. And that's an amazing atmosphere that if you create that in a workplace. I
think it's the only way to work. That's funny. Because what happens is, again, if you listening, people feel that they can be listened to and talk and be free and add to the, it's not just my movie, it's their movie, our movie, because, again, and it's just, I'll take a good idea from anyone, but, it's like a band leader. You create the environment.
Yeah.
It's like, I always think of like people like Miles Davis. You create the environment to allow things to happen. I mean, like, Adam Somner and Adam Stockhausen going out and saying, Steve, I just saw this, we just saw, we were walking with Harlem, we saw this arcade. Like, arcade. So, and like, boom, in my head. So that kind of collaboration is very important because the people feel themselves. If you're in a situation where people are tight, there's no. You got to. I just love an atmosphere where it's fluid. There's give and take. There's banter. There's and again respect and from hair and makeup to catering to the sparks, and also for the actors because actors are like they're skittish, man. They know in the environment when shit is up. They know they can feel it if the environment is fucked.
Yeah,
They're unhealthy.
They can.
And if they've an environment which is they feel a lot of support or love, they feel the environment. They're willing to go. They do crazy stuff. They go there.
They're much
So it's
freer.
very important to have an environment which is healthy.
Your producers must have been really great though too, because they've also got to be open to that kind of, slightly free form, slightly let's change this, let's do that, let's, did you find them good?
If it's working, it's working. That's
Yeah.
the thing. I think again, sometimes we finish half a day, we go home because we got it.
Yeah.
Again, there's a fluidity, and I think again it's about a trust, but also it's about they're happy too. It's got to be a healthy environment. I think because people are brilliant. People after I've taken I remember my son. He came to the set of Widows, and he was with Sean Bobbitt, my DP at the time, and he was looking at the lens. He changed the camera. I said, "Oh, that's good. Okay, keep that. Lock it, and that was it. Again, it's these things. You have to allow things in. Don't be tight. I think if any director, I would just say allow. Don't be tight because you have to allow things in.
Yeah. But you've done a lot of work before you get to that point.
Yes.
So it's
that's the whole point. You're like an Olympic athlete. You're training for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you're on the starting line. You can't just start there on the starting line. All this stuff, you have to get there.
Yeah, you prepped all that stuff. Is there anything that you left behind in the edit room that you wish could have made it into the world of the film, but it just wasn't the right rhythm or...
No, there were interesting characters in the script that I chucked out. There were some interesting characters in the script, but it wasn't. Again, you chuck out certain things with your darlings because it's not helpful for the movie. In the script, there were some great characters, but I thought, again, it's about the movement through, and it's all about George. Yeah.
Yeah, and getting that process right. Would anyone like to ask a question? Yes, in the back.
Hi, great film. Well done. So great with all your team. You put George / Elliot through his paces. So how was that dealing with on set with kids and all the stunts that he went through? Because he did look like he got a few bruises on the way.
No, he loved it. I was holding him back. You're not doing that. No. Oh, he loved it. He loved craft services and he loved doing great stuff. I mean, he was amazing. It was extraordinary and very professional, I may add. Very professional. So a couple of times I'd have a word and he was like on it. Very, very good. There's something in him. There's something in that kid. He's special. He's pretty amazing. And, he could do it. He was actually coaching other actors. It's about the emotional, it was amazing.
Thank you. I thought it was an amazing film, an amazing achievement. I've followed your career since kind of way back, and I've always been amazed at the challenges that you've taken on. Kind of you always kind of take kind of sort of make films that you wouldn't necessarily be expected to make. And I listened to an interview where you likened that to George jumping off the train. I
don't know what I'm expected to do. I have no idea.
But I mean, my question is, what is going through your mind as you are jumping off that train to take on the next kind of project?
I don't think that's the best thing. I think I just feel that I like taking risks. I want the burden. I want it. I remember when I made Hunger. The only way Hunger, I knew that it could be my first film or my last film. And I thought, okay, I'm going out with two guns blazing. I knew, I wanted, I was in Belfast. I'd never been in a movie set before. I never worked with actors before. I never worked with DP before. But I knew a certain understanding of people and images, because obviously art world images, and that was it. And I had that combination. I never wanted a film set before in my life other than my own. And that was just because I never had the opportunity to do, but also they want to learn bad habits. Sometimes you just got to jump, come on. I mean, otherwise, don't get me wrong, I've been in places where, how the fuck how can I get out of this? But because I went on the journey, at some point, possibly you want to stop, you get there. It's one of those things where you have to jump. You have to jump. If too much fear keeps you sitting right where you are, nowhere.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Congratulations on the movie. I was just curious, the decision when the station gets flooded and we don't see George getting out, if there was an intention to leave some ambiguity, whether he maybe made it out alive, whether what we see in the end it's a wish, or if there was another reason why you decided not to show him get out.
Yeah, well, tension, baby. I mean, film, cinema. I mean, keep getting sizzle. I think it's a great jump cut. Then we get for me it's this grandiose thing, and then we end on this feather on a pillow. When we come back to him, it's a feather on a pillow. I mean, I remember the day we were shooting the feather on the pillow. I had 200 people outside, and they forgot my fucking zoom lens. Where's my fucking zoom lens? My macro lens. Where's my fucking macro lens? Oh, so I get my fucking macro lens. So they had to send the fucking bike to go and get macro lens. So 200 people went outside for a macro lens to shoot a flower to shoot a feather on a pillow. So fine, I don't care.
You were right.
Yeah. I don't care if it's 200 people or 3 people. And so that again, I think that cut for me was very important. Again, it's this grand. Sometimes things can be too bombastic, and it's coming back to something which is just so light and so sort of normal and so something, life, through breathing on the feather.
There's an amazing moment in the film where Saoirse, I've forgotten where it is, but she's walking down the street, and it's after there's been a bomb the night before. Maybe it's when she's going home, and there's a woman sweeping. She's sweeping her bombed out house, and her husband, I guess, is sitting in the chair underneath it. And even though there's hardly anything at the front, I just loved that moment. That kind
it's
of
real.
reference.
It's real. It's real. It's real. I mean, again, it's not just about me. I mean, these things were real. I mean, you see it even what's unfortunately going on now. I mean, again, I don't think I've, been very fortunate. Fortunate is not the right word. That's not. But I feel useful as such as an artist sometimes when I've made films, and I think right now because it seems like the world's on fire. Yeah. I feel. I mean, this would be relevant at any time, but more so than now. What's going on in Somalia, Ukraine, sort of, Palestine, Israel, Lebanon. It's kind of crazy. But I've never felt somewhat more useful than now, and these things are happening right now.
Thank you, and thank you so much for the film. It's very thought-provoking. I wanted to ask about your choice of music in the film and your use of music. At what stage in your creative process did you realize that music was going to be a very specific tool that you were going to use here? And what inspired your choices? I know we've spoken about the one that you wrote, but then other songs as well across the film.
Well, from the get-go, it was about music. I mean, you can't have life without. I mean, again, I think I spoke about the Gerald character being based on Paul McCartney's father. This upright piano in the house, and how music perfumed the room, and the whole idea of it was, again, is a place of solace. Music, it lulls you, it sort of corrals you, it sort of holds you together, And again, any and everyone knows music, and I mean, an example of this is, again, it's just one of those things, Sunny Side of the Street, all those kind of, it's always tomorrow's better day. Our voices, our collective voices was, again, people, just get, that kind of camaraderie within voices to sort of get through a situation was very, very important during that time. And again, I'll tell you a story about Hans Zimmer. Hans's mother was here during the Blitz. She was evacuated from Germany. Well, she got here from Germany. And she lived in the Mayfair area during the Blitz. And as soon as the Blitz was over, she went back to Germany to work as a translator for the Americans. And she met her husband there, Hans's father, And 5 years after, when Hans was 5, unfortunately his father died. And then he went to boarding school. So there was always, as soon as I showed Hans a picture without any music, he understood George and the mother and abandonment and everything else. And so we start with recorders. There's orchestra of recorders at the beginning. And obviously as we progress, it orchestrates and orchestrates. So Hans knew, I sat shoulder to shoulder with Hans as he wrote the bloody score. I mean, it was heavy. It was very intense for him. Just like with Nick Brutel, talking about these kind of, again, we wanted to write music, which wasn't like, we wanted to write music from that period, but different, because I thought it was much more, it was much more sort of, I like the idea of recognizable but unfamiliar, rather than something that because it kind of dives. It's got lead shoes. So it was about that. It was about sort of perfuming the air in some ways. Again, there's dust, soot, debris in the air, and as much as that, we want to put the music in there.
There's that beautiful piano piece that you first hear that Paul's playing right at the beginning.
Right, it's called Brighter Days, yeah.
It's just such a beautiful piece, and yet, as you say, it's kind of recognisable, but you know you haven't heard it before. It's amazing.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the film. And there was this, obviously, this incredible moment. And you talked about the encounters that George has in terms of like meeting authority figures or meeting people of color, and obviously he's able to see for this first time this example of what being dignified and black is, and so I was just wondering how much was that a kind of a driving factor for you in the making of this film, and is that something that you feel that you yourself are now carrying as, I suppose, pretty much the preeminent black filmmaker in this country? And is that something that you think about and take into consideration?
I never think about that. I mean, cinema has to go beyond the screen for me. That's always been important to me. It has to go beyond the screen. There's no point in me doing something if it only stays in sort of critics or sort of cinephiles sort of world. When I made Hunger, I knew it had to make noise. Sometimes you could make a film which becomes an object, an actual object that could test where we're at politically in a moment. I remember we did the debut of Hunger in Belfast, and people were hiding under tables and behind couches to see what would happen when this came out with bodyguard and all kind of shit, because it was heavy. You know what happened? Nothing happened, because the movie was telling us, okay, things have moved on a bit. Things have, not to say that they're healed, but things have moved on a bit. So again, like with 12 years or even with this, it's that for me, it has to go beyond the screen. I'm not interested in anything else other than trying to sort of progress conversations that we did with 12 years. I mean, it's important. So again, the thing interesting about Efe, and when the kid comes back and says, I am black, I wrote that on the day of reshooting. That wasn't in the script. I wrote it on the day. It wasn't about, again, it's not about ticking boxes. It's about feeling it, and I felt it. And that occurred. It's about the process. And again, it's one of those things where it's about belief in yourself. I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, you have to sort of, even if you sort of con yourself, you have to believe in yourself, because guess what? No one's going to believe in yourself more than you. And we got gravity to pull us down, to hold us back. We got people in this country, saying no all the fucking time. You know what I mean? So, well, are you sure about that? So you have to sort of put the belief in you that you could do something in order for you to propel yourself forward somehow. And that's what I intend to do, because it's about the work. It's WORK. Nothing else is of any interest to me as far as who people think I am or people not think I am. I couldn't care less. It's about the work. I'm secondary.
That's an amazing place to finish. Thank you, Steve. It's great.
Thank you, Jessica and Steve.
This podcast was recorded at a Directors UK member event. You can hear plenty more directors in conversation by subscribing on the usual streaming platforms. Follow us on social media and find out more about us at directors.uk.com.